Hello and welcome back to the channel, folks. HeirofCarthage here. Did you wake up and not have enough Greek in your day? Like maybe you ate Greek yogurt and, I don't know, you went out for lunch and you got a gyro. Is that Greek or is that just Mediterranean? I don't know. Anyway, lame jokes aside, if you needed some more Greek culture and action in your day, I've got one here for you today. This is going to be Baktria versus Syracuse. A couple of really fun factions. Baktria is kind of a favorite for many because of their really solid cavalry and missile presence. They're not amazing when it comes to infantry, but they do have a few options. But they can really dish out some damage when it is on hoof or at the ends of a bowstring. You have some Bactrian Royal Cavalry, speaking of good cavalry, and then Bactrian Noble Horse as well. 95 armor on a horse. So that is a very well-armored horse unit. Should be very powerful. We got some Persian light archers. It looks like all up front. So 3 of them. And then there are Eastern slingers. So that is a pretty awesome combo. Eastern slingers do decent AP damage, have a lot of ammunition, small shield. Then the Persian light archers will do good damage from range as well. Now the Syracusans are rocking, it looks like 3 Tarentine cavalry. And then there are 3 archers. Those archers are going to be very hard-pressed to keep up with the skirmishing from Baktria. And then as far as infantry goes, Syracuse does have better, I don't know about better, but they have a, I guess, kind of predictable and somewhat reliable mainline infantry in the Thorax Swordsmen. They're not amazing, but they're okay. And the price is not too bad on them. So you're going to see a bunch of Thorax Swords here and Mercenary Samnites. Mercenary Samnites have less attack than the Thorax Swords, but are more survivable. And then as far as cavalry goes, there's Mercenary Italian Cav, 3 of those, and then a Hippeus Lancer Shock Cavalry. Now, the Hippeus Lancer is going to be a pretty tough cavalry, probably not quite as good as Bactrian Royal Cav head-on, and the Italian Cavalry will get murdered by the Bactrian Royal Cav. There's actually 5 archers in total, so there's a pretty good number of skirmishers. Though those archers, remember, only have 125 range. These mercenary Scythian horse archers are going to be really brutal. They have 40 missile damage, so they're going to be quite good. But the 3 Tarentine cavalry can at least try and get them to spend some ammunition. There's actually a couple of Bactrian horse archers on the other side who also come with the 40 damage. And the Bactrian horse archers are actually a medium cavalry, so they have pretty decent melee attack when you look at the stats afterwards there, and weapon damage isn't bad either, so these are going to be quite viable in a melee against skirmishers. And, you know, very late in the game, putting some hits onto infantry. You would want them well damaged before that. Now, the main line for Baktria we didn't discuss is Scale Thorax Hoplites. I believe they have the worst Hoplite Spear available. Maybe there's one that's worse. But it's one of the worst ones. It just doesn't have a lot of damage, and very little of it is armor. Oh, wow. I am way wrong here. They have a 6 armor-piercing spear. This looks like a different spear. Maybe I'm thinking of the 29 damage one. Well, I mean, they don't hit very hard in terms of weapon damage, but a good chunk of it is armor-piercing. Dang, well, they caught me off guard. I guess that's why you stop and look at the stats sometimes to remind yourself. So, these guys will perform... I mean, depends on the cost. I don't remember what the cost is on these units, but if the price is right, you know, may not be bad. They're not going to be aggressive, but they should hold, especially when you get them into a hoplite wall. And they also come with a discipline trait, which can be handy if you were to lose your general a little bit too early. They don't take as big of a hit from the general being dead or routed from the battlefield. So those horse archers trying to do their work here against the... Syracusans, no doubt harassing them, probably hoping to force a move that gives Baktria an advantage. I'm going to fast forward for a moment because we're probably going to have some prolonged skirmishing here. Not that I'm trying to skip it, but just so that we can see it happening. A lot of harassment here going at the cavalry. Some of the infantry are facing them, which this is smart because if you don't turn around and face those horse archers, they'll shoot you in the back and do tremendous damage. So you definitely need to be aware of horse archers potentially going to shoot into the back of your infantry. But you have to watch all your units, and good job here by Syracuse turning those units around and trying to be prepared. And it looks like Baktria has repositioned just outside of missile range, and they're moving forward again. So Baktria is kind of, if you look at the missile cones here, they're going to be putting the pinch on Syracuse, so their maneuvering room is very much lessened at the moment for Syracuse. Baktria's kind of got them pinched right in between their missile firing arcs. So interesting moves. So as Baktria pulls back here, the horse archers can kind of just continue to harass and do their thing. The Tarentine cavalry are going to struggle to get close enough and put some good javelins on target. It doesn't say that it can't happen. It can, it's just not easily done in that situation. So I think Baktria has a handy cavalry advantage in terms of quality. In terms of numbers, they're still there too, just because they have so many horse archers. The Tarentine cavalry is going to be a worse version of the Bactrian horse archers in melee, but similar, I guess, in terms of mass. So anyway, that's kind of a breakdown of what's on the battlefield. Now let's see how each player uses their army, because picking a good army is certainly a big part of Total War. And I would say in Total War Warhammer, that's picking the right army is probably 70% of the battle in Warhammer. At least in the battles that I used to play. I haven't played a whole bunch of the, whatever they call the capture version that's in the new Warhammer game. I forget the name of it. The new multiplayer mode that's been on it. But in the classic land battles, choosing your army right is a huge portion of victory. And I think that that is partly the case in Rome 2. You can certainly pick a wrong army that will get you crushed. But I also think that Rome 2 has a little bit more emphasis on the management of your troops, charges, and minor engagements than you're going to see in Warhammer. Warhammer, you need to do that stuff right, and if you do it right, it's going to benefit you. But you also get the benefit of having some magic, special abilities, characters, stuff like that can sometimes bail you out when you've done wrong. You can see, like right here, that management. 1 second of lapse there, and those Tarentine cavalry put a major hurt on those Scythian archers. So it's definitely going to take a lot of focus here. So the Thorax swordsmen attacking the scale Thorax hoplites. Those hoplites actually have a decent charge bonus. I wonder if they'd be better off to just charge, like right here. They have a better charge bonus than the Thorax swords. It might even that fight out a little more. So the Thorax swords have better attack. Hoplites have better armor piercing. And they also have the wall, which is going to give them extra melee defense. Help them stick in a fight. So they have 77 melee defense, which is considerably more. But I do think the Thorax swords would win these fights, but this is kind of what I expect from Baktria. A little bit of support here. Yeah, look at that. That Thorax sword ripping through the Thorax scale hoplite there. A little bit closer in some of the other fights, but many of the fights, it's been rough. Look at that distraction, too, keeping all these Tarentine cavalry busy, keeping all the skirmishers just a little bit off balance here. You can see the cavalry moving over here to protect those skirmishers. And right now, Bactria's skirmishers are free to just dump their ammunition into the Syracuse infantry, and that's exactly what they're doing right here. Persian light archers and the slingers are just absolutely hosing that Thorax sword right there. This Bactrian noble horse did some work on that infantry as well, but is now pulled out, and I think that's a good plan. The Bactrian royal cavalry acting like they might go for it. They took a few arrows for their trouble, but they're going to fall back out of there, which they should. That's going to be a lot of damage to them. It's not exactly what they wanted, but look at this. Bactrian cav breaking through. Nope, it's going to change its course and charge in here. This could be bad for Baktria. These archers could punish that really badly. But it looks like all of the Syracusan cavalry is going to pile in here. And then the Bactrian royal cavalry is going to pile in there as well. So Baktria having a hard time holding a line together, but they do have their skirmishers. Let's see how their cavalry fares here. They're heavily surrounded, but I mean, this is Italian cavalry. This is not the cream of the crop. So the Bactrian noble horse is going to be hard to overcome. Here comes the Tarentine's going to drop some javelins into that fight. There is some skirmisher cover back here. However, if those Tarentines get into those skirmishers, that will be a problem. And that's exactly where they're headed right now. The Bactrian horse archers are too far away to be used here to potentially slow this down. But I mean, Baktria just devastating a lot of the cavalry in that fight. But it looks like Syracuse pulled out some of their cavalry and pulled back. And they really put a number over on the Bactrian general. So Baktria, I think, is in a bit of a hurt here. The power bar agrees too, but look at this catch here. The Bactrian noble horse catching these archers unaware, killing an absolute ton of them. The Epeius Lancer is going to put a charge in there, and there's some Italian cavalry, but it's going to be hard for those units to kill this mercenary Italian cavalry, the Bactrian noble horse, the archers will help. Or just, I mean, sheer numbers would eventually do it here, which is what it looks like is going on right now. But yeah, Baktria is pretty well getting rolled up. Syracuse is just presented an infantry front that has been difficult for Baktria to handle thus far, and then the Bactrian skirmishers got rolled up by the Tarentine cavalry. I mentioned that could be a problem if they got through, and they did get through, and they have caused tremendous damage to the Bactrian skirmishers, which at this point were very much needed. And I think these Bactrian horse archers that run out of ammo are going to go for some rear charges here. But there is a lot of swordsmen left. Those Samnites and the Thorax swords are, like I said, they're giving fits to the Bactrian infantry at the moment. Persian light archers get charged by the remnants of those Tarentine cavalry. It doesn't take much to rout an archer unit, and when you have a unit that's already in the throes of death, sometimes just charging it in is the appropriate measure. I do believe the general... I can't tell if he's alive or not. I think he may be the one that's pulling out a sword every now and then. I could be wrong. Comes that Bactrian cavalry on a charge. There's another Bactrian horse archer over here threatening the Persian archers, or sorry, the Syracusan archers, but it's so tired, it's completely exhausted, it actually gets run down by the Hippeus Lancer, and then all the arrows come flying in, which will actually do a fair bit of damage to the Hippeus Lancer, but it's not going to matter, I don't think, too much at this point. Some of that Italian cavalry is now free, and at this point I do believe it is a roll-up for Syracuse. Well played by Syracuse, and a good army pick. It proved to be difficult for Baktria to take down. I was pretty concerned about Syracuse when I saw that cheap archer line, but I think the Tarentine cavalry and the sheer numbers of the mercenary Italian cavalry ended up causing a big problem, and the fact that the Bactrians just didn't have a great answer to all those Thorax swords in terms of infantry, I think created a bit of a challenge for them. So yeah, you can see here what's going on. I about half wonder, I mean, so Baktria, I'm going to think this through real quick and maybe see if I can think this through properly in my head, but Baktria had the skirmish advantage. Let's assume for a minute that they sat back, moved their other forces in, and tried to do more skirmishing. We assume at that point that you probably see the same thing, like what happens. Syracuse goes ahead and charges, because they don't want to sit and get picked apart by horse archers on one side and the other. And then when they charge, that disrupts the missile capability, at least for the moment. If Baktria stays home and puts all their missiles into that infantry well, can they get enough damage done fast enough to flip that infantry fight? And my thinking here is probably not. The scale thorax hoplites seem to have performed very poorly. Only one of them picked up a chevron. On the other hand, look, multiple units of thorax swords picking up chevrons, 2 units of Samnites, so clearly they are just better in these fights. The Bactrian noble horse performed well in terms of picking up chevrons, but they just weren't enough to overcome the multiple units of Italian cavalry. So the 3 units of Italian cavalry up against the 2 of the Bactrian. But I think the big key there was the support from the archers. These cheap archers did not get killed by Bactria's skirmishing efforts, and ergo, whenever the cavalry came in, that massive archer fire there ended up causing a big problem. And so that was a nice win by Char here over Hotel Soap. I think well done, Char. Appreciate seeing both of you all play here, and appreciate Hotel Soap sending this one over. Fun battle here between a couple of good factions, and I hope to see you all soon again in Total War Rome 2.